US President Donald Trump has expressed cautious optimism about the ongoing peace negotiations aimed at resolving the war in Ukraine. In a recent conversation, Trump shared insights into the diplomatic efforts, which have been progressing despite significant challenges. The conflict, which has caused extensive human suffering and geopolitical instability, remains one of the most critical issues facing Europe and the world today. Trump's remarks reveal the complexity of the situation, the ongoing diplomatic discussions, and the key obstacles that need to be overcome before a peace agreement can be reached. Progress in talks with Russia. We're having good talks. We started with Russia, and we're having some talks with Russia, Trump stated. These comments provide an insight into the United States' role in the ongoing peace process. The US, under Trump's leadership, has been engaged in direct diplomatic talks with Russia, aiming to bring both sides to the table and broker a resolution to the conflict. While the talks have been framed by some as slow and difficult, Trump remains hopeful about their potential to succeed. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it, he added, emphasizing that the Ukrainian government, despite the challenges they face, is supportive of the peace efforts. However, Trump acknowledged that peace talks between Russia and Ukraine are far from straightforward. The complexity of the situation, particularly when it comes to territorial disputes, security concerns, and the entrenched positions of both parties, has made progress slow. Despite this, Trump remains optimistic that the ongoing efforts will eventually lead to a ceasefire agreement. The impact of long-standing hatred and historical tensions. The nature of the conflict in Ukraine is deeply rooted in long-standing historical grievances, territorial disputes, and geopolitical rivalries. There's a lot of hatred, Trump remarked, highlighting the emotional and political intensity that underpins the war. This element of deep-seated hostility makes the diplomatic process particularly challenging. Both Russia and Ukraine have strong nationalistic sentiments and differing visions for their futures, which complicates efforts to find common ground. Trump, who has emphasized his ability to negotiate effectively with foreign leaders, noted that resolving the Ukraine conflict would likely have been an easier task had it not been for the historical animosity between the parties involved. Reflecting on his previous diplomatic successes, Trump said, "We settled 8 wars, and I thought this would be one of the easier ones because of my relationship with President Putin, but this is probably one of the more difficult ones." Trump's reference to Putin underscores the complex dynamic between the two leaders, who have a long history of diplomatic engagement. However, even this personal connection has not been enough to resolve the impasse in Ukraine, where the stakes are higher than in some of the previous conflicts Trump has helped mediate. The 28-point peace plan, progress and controversies. Trump's comments also touched on the specifics of the peace plan being discussed. In his remarks, he referred to the 28-point peace proposal, which has been central to the negotiations. While the plan has been evolving, it initially served as a framework that both Russia and Ukraine were willing to discuss. Trump explained that the initial proposal underwent significant revisions as the parties continued to negotiate. That was an original proposal, and then from there we went back and forth, Trump said. This indicates that the 28-point plan was merely the starting point for the discussions, with both sides making adjustments as the talks progressed. Despite these changes, the core elements of the plan, including territorial compromises, security guarantees, and the status of Russian-occupied territories, remain central to the ongoing negotiations. The 28-point plan is highly controversial, particularly when it comes to territorial concessions. Trump confirmed that they're talking about going land both ways and trying to clean up a border. This suggests that both sides are considering land swaps or modifications to existing borders as a means of resolving territorial disputes. The difficulty lies in finding a mutually acceptable solution, as territorial integrity remains a sensitive issue for both Russia and Ukraine. Trump also acknowledged the complexity of dividing territories in a way that ensures both sides can accept the results. You can't go through the middle of a house. You can't go through the middle of a highway, he explained, illustrating the intricacies involved in border demarcation. These seemingly simple logistical details reflect the broader challenges of creating a peace agreement that addresses both the practical realities on the ground and the political sensitivities involved. Security guarantees and the role of Europe. Another major point of contention in the peace talks is the issue of security guarantees for both Ukraine and Russia. We're working that out with Europe. Europe will be largely involved in that, Trump said, highlighting the role that European powers play in the negotiations. The United States is not acting alone in these talks. European countries, particularly those in the European Union, are also heavily invested in ensuring the stability of the region. The issue of security guarantees is particularly important for Ukraine, which has long sought protection against further Russian aggression. At the same time, Russia is demanding assurances that NATO will not expand further eastward and that Ukraine will not join the military alliance in the future. These demands have created a delicate balance in the negotiations, as both sides seek guarantees that their respective security interests will be safeguarded. Trump emphasized that Europe's involvement is crucial to achieving a lasting peace. Europe really wants to see it end if possible, he said, echoing the widespread desire among European leaders to bring the conflict to a close. The war in Ukraine has had significant ramifications for Europe, not only in terms of security concerns, but also in terms of the economic and humanitarian impacts. And the United States and European powers are aligned in their goal to bring an end to the war, but the specific terms of the peace agreement remain a point of contention. The path ahead, a complicated and lengthy process. Despite the many obstacles, Trump remains optimistic that the peace process will ultimately succeed. However, he was careful to temper expectations, acknowledging that resolving such a complex conflict takes time. It's a complicated process. Doesn't go that quickly, he said, recognizing that there is no quick fix to the situation. The international community has been watching closely, and while there is hope for a resolution, the road ahead remains uncertain. The Trump administration's diplomatic efforts, in collaboration with European partners, represent a concerted push to end the war in Ukraine. However, the challenges are substantial and the outcome is still very much in question. As the peace talks continue, it is clear that the stakes are high, not only for Ukraine and Russia, but for the broader international community as well. In conclusion, President Trump's comments reveal a delicate balancing act as the US and its allies work to broker a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. While progress has been made, the road to peace is fraught with difficulties, including territorial disputes, security concerns, and historical tensions. Nonetheless, there is a shared desire for stability and peace, and the ongoing diplomatic efforts offer hope that a resolution can eventually be reached. The coming months will be critical in determining whether these negotiations can lead to an end to the war and a lasting peace for the region.